I'm Christy and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you've never been here before. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. So in today's video, I have 15 small town romance recommendations for you. I recently did a sports romance recommendation video last month, which I will link in the description below if you haven't checked that one out yet. And in that video, I had asked what other tropes or recommendation videos people wanted to see. So I ended up getting a few comments on that video, as well as a couple other videos I've done recently. People wanted to see some small town romance recs, so I wanted to share 15 of them that I have read recently with you. So I love reading small town romances. I live in a small town myself, and so there's just something really comforting and cozy about that tight-knit community, the really close proximity of everybody. You kind of learn a little bit about everyone in the town, and they're all like personalities, and I just love the cozy vibes that small town reads give me. So the first book I was going to talk about is The Culmination of Everything by Christina C. Jones. So this is book 1 in her Sugar Valley series. There's 2 books in this series, and they both take place in Sugar Valley, which is this small mountainside town. So both books in the series do deal with heavier elements, kind of grief and loss and emotions like that. So just know going in that this series does have like heavier vibes to it. So in this one, the heroine is a trauma doctor. She recently lost her husband and their daughter. And so she kind of just wanted to take a break. She took a sabbatical from work, get back out to nature. And so she takes off to Sugar Valley on her own. And on one of her first days there, she is hiking in one of the mountains and ends up tripping and falling. And so the hero has to come to her rescue, and he is a forest ranger. So these two don't get off on the right foot. The hero automatically assumes she was out there taking selfies. He thinks she was like ill prepared to be hiking. You know, he just like assumes the worst about her. And then she, you know, can't get along with his grumpy self either. So even though these two start off hating one another, the chemistry between them is just electric. And so she actually ends up proposing to him that they do like an enemies with benefits situation. So yeah, this one was really fun. I loved the push and pull between them. Their banter was just so fun. Like I was laughing out loud at a lot of their really stubborn moments. Just loved the small town setting. And then of course the, you know, kind of hateful vibes between them that turns into more, of course. Second book in the Sugar Valley series by Christina C. Jones is The Point of It All. Again, this one has heavier vibes as well, just like the first book in the series. In this one, the heroine is 40, she's newly divorced, and she has always wanted to own a winery. So she ends up moving to Sugar Valley, purchasing a winery on her own, and decides she's going to run it. She ends up running into the hero on her first day there, and he's like, hey, my grandparents actually opened that winery. I grew up there. I worked there. Like, is there any chance you would sell it back to me because it means so much to me? So she actually tells him like, no, this was my dream as well, but like, hey, since you have like all this history and knowledge of the winery, why don't you come and work for me? So they end up working it together, and it becomes their romance. There's obviously a lot more going on with the story. This one deals very heavily with cancer. I ended up not really loving this one as much as the first book, but it is still a really good book. And this series is really great if you're in the mood for a small town, but kind of want some more heavier emotions or things like that in your read. The next series I read is The Miles Family by Claire Kingsley. I first heard about this series from Caitlin from The Love Librarian. She was recommending the first book in the series. So this series takes place in Central Washington, and it centers around the Miles family who owns a winery. So each sibling ends up getting their own book. So book 1 is Broken Miles, and this is a second chance romance between a divorced couple. And in this one, these two were high school sweethearts. They ended up marrying when they were in college, but things didn't work out. She thought he was a workaholic, and so they ended up divorcing. They've been divorced for 4 years now. He's living in California, working for another company, when one of his brothers calls and is like, hey, we need you back here. Mom and dad are about to lose the winery. Like, we really could use your help. So the hero ends up coming back, and then he runs into his ex-wife, the heroine, because she also still works at his family's winery. One is their romance and kind of that, you know, they're working together again, they're being around one another, and all those like old feelings and some love that like was never lost starts coming back. Book 2 in the series is Forbidden Miles, and in this one it is a brother's best friend romance. And in this one, the heroine is the only daughter of the Miles family, and it's her romance with one of her brother's best friends / roommates. So she's had a crush on the hero like her entire life when she was a teenager, and when she was growing up, she always was crushing on him. But on his side, he's always kind of, you know, ignored her or put her out of his mind because he's like, she's my best friend's little sister. Like, she's totally off limits. Like, could never have her. But now she is back from college, and her and the hero, they start arguing one night, which leads to kissing, and they kind of realize there's some feelings there. It ends up being their romance. This one is super low angst from the couple's point of view. There is like a little bit of drama with her brother not being okay with the relationship. So the next one in this series is called Hidden Miles. It's actually the fourth book in the series. And in this one, we follow one of the brothers who was discharged from the army, and he has a lot of facial scars. He ended up like growing out his hair, growing a beard, just to try to hide the scars on his face. He also has been living at his family's winery, working there, living there, and hasn't left the family's land for 5 years. So in this one, he has had an online gaming friendship with a girl for the past like 3 or 4 years. They game together every night, and have kind of bonded over that, but they don't know one another in person. But in the beginning of the story, they actually end up meeting and realizing they live in the same town. She's attending like a wedding at the winery, and he's there, hears her voice, and immediately knows like, this is my online friend. And in this, the heroine, she's actually going through a breakup with somebody who is abusive, and so the hero ends up kind of rescuing her at a point, and so it does deal with the trauma from her abusive relationship. So it ends up being their romance. I really liked that they were online gaming friends first. That was super fun. Yeah, and it was fun seeing their romance together. The next one I'm going to recommend is Bright Like Wildfire by Juliet Cross. I actually read an arc of this one, and it comes out this month, so on July 12th. This one has some hate to love vibes. It's set in small town Louisiana, and it has some like close proximity, as well as the hero and heroine end up getting the leads in their local like community theaters production for the summer. In this one, they have known each other for quite a while. The heroine still hasn't got over like some embarrassing things that he did back when she was in high school. And she's always kind of just hated him. Like, he's like the perfect prince of the town. His family owns all of these businesses, and she kind of like just can't stand him. She hates that everybody else thinks he's so perfect. Like, to her, she's like, he's not perfect. Beginning of the story, he's opened up his new like upscale grocery store, and because of the grand opening, she ends up running late for work. She's an English high school teacher. Later on, they end up realizing that they're going to be working together when they both get leads in the community theater's production of Barefoot in the Park. It has a lot of time of them practicing their lines together, practicing the kissing, like all of those fun little theater moments. There was a lot of moments I liked in this one. The heroine, we get to see a lot of her time in the classroom with her high school students. The hero, he is on anxiety meds, so I liked the representation there and the discussions about his anxiety. We have like great chemistry. Hero's dirty talk was super good. Just some really steamy moments, proving that small town romances can be super steamy. And then of course, I just loved seeing a hero fall hard for the heroine first, which is what this book delivered on. But yeah, this book is coming out on July 12th. The next book I'm going to talk about is Life After Wife by Amber Kelly. So this is the first book in her newest small town series. I had originally read Amber Kelly like 3 or 4 years ago. She had the Poplar Falls series, which is another really good one. But yeah, this is the first book in her new series. So in this one, the heroine ends up heading back to her small hometown of Tennessee after finding out that her husband of like 16 years was cheating on her. He like ends up getting somebody else pregnant. So she decides she's had enough. She packs up herself and their preteen son, and they move back in with her mom in Tennessee. So on the first day back in her mom's house, she ends up running into the hero, who him and his brothers and his kind of entire family have taken in her mom and have been looking after her since her father's death. And I liked that this book kind of focuses on second chances at love, second chances at life, and new beginnings for the heroine, the hero, and like multiple people in the small town, which was really nice to see. So we kind of get to see the heroine's struggles of trying to connect with her mom. They've never really seen eye to eye. She was always like a daddy's girl growing up. She's also trying to connect with her preteen son, who kind of wants nothing to do with her. She's dealing with her ex, who, she's trying to get a divorce from. She's coming back to her small town, trying to find a job, trying to reconnect with like old friends. But the romance part of this was definitely low angst, just sweet and safe, a little bit predictable, but like sometimes you're just in the mood for that classic like small town romance vibe, and this book definitely delivered on that. Next up is the Bellamy Creek series by Melanie Harlow. I loved this whole series, but the one I'm going to be recommending is Make Me Yours. So in this one, the hero is a policeman, and he is a widowed single dad trying to take care of his like 9-year-old daughter. We also get friends to lovers in this, pining, and then the hero is also the heroine's brother's best friend. This one just has like all the tropes that I love and eat up. This one, they live right next door to each other, and the heroine has always crushed on her brother's best friend, which is the hero. And so now she is 30, she's all grown up, she's like a kindergarten teacher, and her mom is definitely pressuring her to get in a relationship and marry. But the heroine has always been secretly holding out for the hero to finally see her as more than a friend. So the heroine has been helping out the hero with his daughter, like takes her to school, hangs out with her when he's at work, things like that. And so the hero has kind of started to see the heroine as more, but like, doesn't want to mess up their relationship. So one night the hero and heroine end up having dinner together, and after they go their separate ways, the heroine goes home. She decides to send the hero like a dirty fantasy-filled sext to him of what she wants to do with him. So at first she's kind of embarrassed, but then his mind is like blown, and so he actually ends up replying and is like, well, what else would we do? So I really love this one. It's just like a very mature, sweet romance. He's obviously afraid to love and lose again since he has lost his wife in the past. So this does touch on some therapy that he ends up going to. His daughter is definitely a focus of the book as well. And yeah, I just really love this one. Melanie Harlow's Bellamy Creek series does exist in the same world as her Cloverleaf Farms series. So like you see some crossover moments in her newest generation of the Cloverleaf Farm series. You actually end up seeing the hero's daughter in this book. Like she's all grown up and she's engaged, kind of like a little background story in one of those books. So yeah, I really love the Bellamy Creek series if you haven't checked it out yet. So next up is Ignite by Melanie Harlow, and this is in her Cloverleaf Farm series. It's like the next generation stories that she's been putting out recently. So this is a small town series set in Michigan, and in this one we have a hero. He is a single dad raising his children with his ex, and then we also have like a neighbors with benefits situation. It's when we also get age gap because the hero is 34 and the heroine is 22. The hero was a former Navy SEAL turned firefighter, and he is co-parenting his two daughters. They end up moving into a new townhouse when the story starts, and the heroine ends up being their new neighbor. So when the story starts, the heroine, she has always fallen in love super easy, super fast, and a lot. And so at the beginning of the story, her friend kind of and her make a bet that like she needs to stay out of relationships and like not fall in love for the next 6 months. So I love this one. The hero is a grumpy single dad with his daughters. I loved all the moments with his daughters, with him, also with the heroine and his daughters. This book does have a lot of callbacks to the heroine's dad's book, which was the first book of the Cloverleaf Farm series. The hero also just thinks he's like too old, not a relationship guy because of like some previous things from his previous relationships. But yeah, this one was a lot of fun, and I just love the Cloverleaf Farm series as a whole. This new generation has been a lot of fun just catching up with all the characters again. Next book is Tease by Melanie Harlow, and this one actually I read an arc of it and it comes out on July 11th. So this is the most recent book in her Cloverleaf Farm series. I think we're like on book 8 at this point. And in this one, we have a fake engagement situation with best friends. So in this one, the hero and heroine, they bonded back in middle school. They were both like socially awkward. They were band geeks. They were into like sci-fi movies and shows. And so they just kind of connected over that. They've always been friends. The hero actually ended up going to like MIT, and then he became a billionaire. And so billionaire romances don't really usually work for me, but this one I really loved because instead of like that cocky, confident billionaire hero types that we always get, the hero in this one, he is very sweet and charming. The hero in this one, he is like socially awkward. He doesn't like big crowds or big events. He actually doesn't even like talking on the phone. And so I really like that representation of him in this story. So in this one, the heroine thinks her life is kind of like at a standstill. She recently moved back in with her parents. She's also been trying to get her vegetarian catering and kind of lifestyle blog up and going. So at the beginning of the story, she just catered her first wedding event, and she gets like a scathing like 1-star review from the bride, just kind of feeling down in the dump. So then that next day or that same night is also her 10-year high school reunion. So when she's already not feeling great, runs in to the former mean girls who are still mean girls, she ends up telling them that she is engaged to her billionaire best friend. And she calls him to come down to the reunion and is like, hey, can you play along just for tonight? Like, I was already feeling miserable. Like, I really need you to stand up here with me. So he ends up helping her out, going along with it. But until the next day, both of their families, the entire town and friends, they all hear about it and assume the engagement is real. So the hero ends up telling the heroine, like, hey, let's just go along with it for a bit, pretend we're fake engaged, like I'm here for the summer, and let's just, appease both of our families in the meantime. But of course, there's been some secret pining on both of their ends, and I just really loved seeing their romance together. But yeah, this romance ended up being really sweet and cute. The hero is more shy and reserved in person, but he's like very dominant and controlling in the bedroom, which was a lot of fun. We also get to see them two kind of playing out all of their fantasies that they've had for one another over the years. And so yeah, this one was super fun and super hot. I also wanted to mention quickly the Getting Lucky series by Megan Quinn. These are all available on Kindle Unlimited, and they also come with that read and listen feature, so you can listen to the audiobooks as well if you grab them on Kindle Unlimited. Megan Quinn I haven't really loved, but this series is definitely my favorite from her. So it's set in small town Maine, and the series follows 4 brothers who live there. Next up is Like You Love Me by Adriana Locke. So this one is a cute childhood best friends turned fake relationship and marriage of convenience. The heroine is in need of some quick cash at the beginning of the story. She recently inherited her grandmother's B&B, and to pay off the taxes, she needs some money for that. And then the hero is a vet and he's up for his dream job, but they are looking for a family man, and so he's in need of a wife. He's in town working at his grandfather's vet clinic in Tennessee, and then he ends up telling the other job that he's trying to get that, yeah, I'm engaged. And this one is a low angst, but definitely does move from that fake relationship into a real relationship pretty quickly. But yeah, I did really enjoy this one. Next up is Just One of the Groomsmen by Cindy Matson. I ended up reading this one last year, and it is a sweet best friends to lovers romance. So in this one, it is set in small town Alabama. The hero has been like a big shot lawyer in the big city, and he ends up moving back home. And then him and the heroine, they have been part of the same like best friend group since childhood. And the heroine is the only girl among the 4 guy friends. So the heroine has always just been like kind of one of the guys. She's not really into girly things. Growing up, she would like play football and hang out with him. And now she works as a sports therapist. So when one of their friends ends up getting married, he wants all of them, including the heroine, to be his groomsmen for the wedding. And so it ends up being the romance between the heroine and the hero, which is one of her best friends. This one just had tons of small town charm. The heroine has had a terrible dating life and she can't figure out why. And then I really liked in this one how the hero and heroine, they have not been pining for one another all their lives. Like they just kind of start to see each other in a new light, and so it ends up being their romance, and it was a really fun time. Next up is Well Matched by Jen DeLuca. This is the 3rd book in her Well Met series. This one I went in not expecting much, and it ended up being one of my favorite contemporary reads of last year. The first book in the series I thought was pretty cute and fun. The second book in the series I did not like, so this 3rd book I went in with lower expectations, and it ended up being my favorite of the series. In this one, the heroine has just turned 40. Her daughter is about to go off to college in the summer, and she's about to become an empty nester for the first time in her life. And since the heroine has never been a fan of small town life, she thinks that now that her daughter's moving away to college, that this is the perfect opportunity to also sell their house and move herself. And so she ends up talking to a realtor, and the realtor is like, hey, you need to make these like minor fixes and changes, small little, you fix it jobs around your house before we can get it ready to sell. Her friend is the hero, and he's the local gym teacher, and he ends up offering it to help her. So that hero has lived in the town his whole life. He also participates in the local Ren Fair every summer, which the whole series kind of centers around. His family has never taken his job or his life choices very seriously. They kind of all jokingly rib at him at family gatherings, kind of like in a rude and mean way. So he ends up asking the heroine like, hey, I'll help you with your home improvement plans, but can you come and be my fake date at like my grandparents' anniversary? The anniversary party that he ends up having her attend with him ends up becoming like a weekend getaway with like only one bed trope, which was so fun. And yeah, I just really like this one. I like the age gap with the older heroine. I liked seeing the, more mature relationship with older hero and heroines getting their HEA. I liked that they were friends first. Like it definitely made their chemistry just feel really natural. And then I liked the heroine's feelings of, her daughter moving out and kind of all those real feelings that she has with that as well going on. And I just really loved seeing these two together, the partnership that they form and that very like united front that they stand up for one another a lot. And yeah, I really love this one. And then the last book that I'm going to recommend, I actually just ended up finishing this one, gave it 5 stars and loved it. And it's Parks and Provocation by Juliet Cross. So in this one, the hero and heroine have known one another from high school. They started like crushing on one another, but then because of like classic teen times and all that like miscommunication that comes along with that, they ended up becoming enemies. So now the heroine has moved back home to Green Valley, Tennessee, where they live, and the hero is there and he works as a firefighter. In this, the heroine and her best friend, they have a dating kind of talk show podcast where the heroine goes on first dates and then comes back after the fact with the date, and then they kind of discuss the pros and cons and rate how the first date went. So in this one, at the beginning of the story, the heroine ends up locking her keys in the car and the hero kind of comes to her rescue. So after helping her get unlocked out from her car, the hero ends up asking her out on a date, but the heroine first tells him no until her friend tells her like, hey, this could be the perfect opportunity for one of our first dates for the podcast. So they end up going out on their date, and then he comes onto their podcast. They talk about it. It was super fun having all those little moments from their podcast of the pros and cons of their date and kind of how it all went down, breaking it down, during a YouTube live with their viewers commenting as well. The heroine had told him at the end of their first date that she doesn't do second dates, like she's not in the right place right now. She's kind of in between jobs and in between where she's going to live, so she doesn't want to go on any second dates. Then during their live show of their discussion of their first date, the hero kind of puts her on the spot and challenges her to a second date. So of course she says yes when on air, and then it ends up becoming their romance, which was really sweet to see. I love when the hero falls first, and in this book that is definitely the case. So I loved seeing their romance. The hero is a firefighter. We get to see some firefighter action, which is always a fun. The hero and heroine have both kind of pined for one another over the years. They deal with kind of that miscommunication that happened in the past, which again, they were teens, like I get it. But yeah, this one was really fun. The hero is dyslexic, so I liked that representation, as well as just seeing him, you know, pushing for the relationship with the heroine more so than she was, and both of that kind of mutual pining and their second chance at actually having a relationship was a lot of fun. So yeah, those are all my small town romance recs. I do have more on my Goodreads, which it's always linked in my description. I have tons of lists of tropes broken out on there that I've read. Let me know if you've read any of these and what your thoughts were, or if you have any small town romance recs from me. I'd love to know. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, and I'll see you in my next one.